Thinking about starting your own podcast? I think it's a good idea that you try Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. And Anchor gives you everything you need in one place. And the best part is that it's free. And the other best part is you can use it right from your phone or your computer. And I've been using it from my phone this entire time. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it really sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. And when I mean everywhere, I mean Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast, and there's no minimum listenership. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
The House of Roll journeys far and wide to bring you exceptional quality kitchen and bath fixtures. We've discovered the world's best craftsmen and techniques. Using materials native to the region and tools accustomed to individual craftsmen, we strive for perfection every step of the way. With all of this, you'll see the details of your own story, the story of a life well crafted. This is the story Craft tells. Welcome to the House of Roll.
One of the topics I've been meaning to talk about for some time, but I wasn't quite sure how to approach it, was watching the news. So as a kid, I most definitely was exposed to the news quite often. You know, that was one of the first things my parents turned on in the morning. Unless, obviously, we were watching cartoons or something, but they were always watching it if we were watching cartoons. And, as I got older, the less and less I started to watch it, because a lot of the time that, we would turn the news on or I would watch the news, it was always something that was sad. I'm like, man, that's so sad, or oh my gosh, that's happening, or oh my gosh, this is happening, and just like, I don't want to touch on this too much, but just like when 9/11 happened, and, just the new, like everything, like the news, oh my gosh, that's the very first thing that you're gonna turn on, when any kind of event happens, right? Like that's what the news is for. But as, and I was saying, as I got older, I noticed the worse and worse it got. And then when I really started to get into my older teen years, so like 16 through 18, I really stopped watching it, and I really had no interest in knowing really what the news had to say. And, and then I started, I stopped watching it. And I have not sat down and watched any news station since I've been about 17 years old. And any time that it has popped up, whether it maybe be at a doctor's office, your Secretary of State, any like main offices, there's going to be a lot of the time, and I think even in prisons, I'm not even sure, but I would assume so, in some of there's news, you know what I mean? That's on the news station, or the news is in those offices, or the news is, exploited out in those areas. Well, if you're somebody who does watch the news, I just want you to think about what you are exposing yourself to every day. And I can't really speak on what is on the news every day as far as like, knowing like what they're talking about, or knowing really of anything that has to do with politics. And is maybe some people can say this sad, or some people can say it's a good thing, with all these shootings that are going on. I mean, the news is literally, this is not even funny, the news is literally scaring, and excuse my language, the news is literally scaring the shit out of these parents to send their kids to school every day. I mean, this little town, you know, or these little towns in these places that are not even that populated are getting, you know, we don't know where this is coming from. And then, you know, and then you're stuck on that, and then it's the gun control, and then we're stuck, you know, and then we get going about the gun control, and then you get going about the government and the politics and everything that's going on, everything that scares you. It scares the crap out of you to think that you literally get scared to almost walk out of your door every day, to think you don't know what's going to happen. You know, and I've lived in a small town in Michigan my whole life, and the fact that, you know, we have active shooter trainings, like, and this is like a real life thing, you know, they do like actual drills, like there's a real shooter, and, you know, that was never a thing. And then, you know, everybody getting all hyped up about the president, and every time I hear anybody talking about anything that they've seen on the news about politics or about, you know, the gun control and all that, it's never anything good. Rather than the news talking about what's things that we can do to make, you know, this city better or make this place better, they rather focus on, oh, Flint found out that they have lead in their water, now everybody's infected. Yeah, that's terrible, and that's something that should go on the news. But they also need to put on there, you know, they need to talk about, like, what are ways that people are helping? What are some ways, like, what churches, you know what I mean? What churches are giving away free water? What places are, you know, providing these filters that people need? Who's donating money? Who's helping clean up the city? I don't think I ever hear anybody. I mean, it's sad because the only time that I actually know about anybody really doing any good is social media, and social media can be equally as bad as the news, you know, just as toxic as the news can be. And for people who, you know, are watching, or when we're watching stuff like that and all that negativity that's put on you, you know, you're already kind of like in this negative, like, this mindset or this state, because you've just been exposed to all these bad things that are going on. And, like, you know, on Instagram and like Facebook and stuff like that, people post news articles and everybody goes and reads a news article, and half the time, 90% of the time, it's always something bad. Always. You know, and then when they have one little thing about, you know, anything good, if they have anything good on there, it's like it's just brushed to the side, and it's basically played for a minute or two on there, and then nothing, you know, and they're sitting there, there's people that are arguing back and forth because of what a Trump's doing, and there's people arguing back and forth about abortion and racism and everything everything that's bad is on the news. Every negative thing that you see in your life that is happening, it all comes from the news. And, you know, and I had a conversation with people about, you know, watching the news. Like, how many of you people get up in the morning and you watch the news? And half the people, then there are people that, you know, they're like, oh, well, I just turn on the news because I want to know what's going on. You know, I want to know what's happening in the world. And, you know, I might seem like I'm so far-fetched from, like, what they might call reality, but I also am not blinded by the fact that there's other things that are more important to be worrying about, other than the fact that Donald Trump sucks, you know? Like, yeah, there's a lot of, and I will fully voice my opinion about how I feel about Donald Trump, and I'm not saying that I want to get into an argument about it, or that I want to, you know, have to get into a debate about somebody. But if you have, you know, I stand by my beliefs, and I stand by, you know, the fact that I don't even think Donald Trump I think it was a joke. And I think that, you know, it's a distraction for us. And if you guys, my point is, I was having a conversation, with a couple of coworkers of mine, and I said, you guys got to stay woke. And they laughed at me like, what does that even mean? Like, stay woke? Seriously? Like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. I've never heard that. And what I mean by that is I'm saying, like, pay attention to what's going on around you. And I don't mean the news. I don't mean watch the news and pay attention to what they're talking about. I'm talking about pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to the people that are around you. You know, are you supporting yourself with positive people? Are you surrounding yourself with negative people? What kind of people, you know, what kind of things do you do with your spare time? You know, do you sit there and, like, watch yourself, you know, pay attention to, like, how you talk to people and, like, what you're saying and how you're feeling after you do watch the news. And, you know, another thing on that stay woke is that has a lot to do with, this whole gun control and everything that's going on is, you know, we believe, a lot of us conspiracy theorists believe that, you know, it's just a distraction from what's really going to happen. Like, we have all this racism and we have all, we have racism and we have, now we're building the wall and there's going to be no more immigrants that are going to be able to come here. And if you leave the country, then, you know, blah, 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 like, you can't come back. And, there's all these shootings that are going on and this, I mean, unless you have, it's hard for me to talk, like, if I was to sit here and talk to someone that is very into politics, they wouldn't agree with anything that I have to say, because I have a very different opinion on, how the government works and who controls the government. And, the fact that, there's a lot of things that we don't see that you think that you see, just like, I noticed a lot of the time that when people, like when I would talk to people who do watch the news, one of the things that they said, one of the things that they were talking about is, oh my gosh, did you hear that this, and this was going on? Did you hear that, that this person got shot? Oh my gosh, did you hear that this person, this is going on with this company? Did you know that this is going on with blah, blah, blah? And it's never anything good. It's never anything good, ever. Anybody that ever watches the news never has anything good to say. And the people that typically that do watch the news are people that go to a 9-to-5 job every day. These are the people that, care about gun control. These are the people that care about abortions. These are people that care about, like going to school and thinking that that's like the best option. And, even though I did, and I am in no way, shape, or form going to be any bashing on anybody. I'm not saying that anybody is right or wrong for watching the news, nor are you stupid or are you intelligent because you decide that you want to watch the news. It's a matter of me just coming on here and speaking to you about how I truly feel about it. And I really do feel like people are brainwashed by what's going on the news. You're not, you really... It almost is one of those things where I could seriously like talk about this for probably, hours, because there's so many different topics that seem to arise in the news, or so many different topics that people, have opinion about. So they rely on the news to kind of like keep updated on like, oh, when this shooting's going on, blah, 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 stay away from this area, don't go, this isn't a good area to visit anymore, whatever. And then, you're automatically going to think like, oh, that's a bad place to go, that's a bad place to live. And everybody's going to remember, because of the news, everybody's going to remember that specific spot for that, what happened. And I get that the news is supposed to broadcast like things that are going on like in our world, but what about, like, seriously, what about all these great things that people are doing, like this CBD epidemic? Everybody's talking about, oh, it's going to make this much money, and, all these companies are doing this, and then all of a sudden certain companies aren't good because they have this in there, and you know what I mean? And it's never just, oh, CBD is, one of these great things, and it helps with your cancer cells, like it decreases the size in cancer cells, and they say, there's so many, that's what scientists have said, and I'm not saying that that's for anybody and that's what's going to work. Just want to make that clear. But, do you ever see on the news where people are talking about, and it's any relation to cancer? The news isn't going to talk about anything that's like truly going to get rid of what makes the most money in this world, like the cancer facilities and all that. You see how nice and how like elegant almost these cancer centers are, because people are able to build those because of how much money it is to do chemo and radiation therapy. If you look it up, like that is like one of the number one, that's how a lot of, that is a big money maker for the U.S. to have those cancer centers. Those are big for people to have cancer. And that could be a whole nother topic that I could talk about as well, with, finding a cure for cancer, understanding where cancer comes from, why we do radiation therapy, things like that, and how CBD, I've literally heard of so many people that have, I don't know, when I say like stay woke, when I was talking about earlier, it's kind of crazy how, if you guys really think about it, because this is the only reason I know what's actually on the news is just from other people actually like, oh, did you hear that? And normally I don't like to talk about it as much. But the cancers, I've heard literally, I kid you not, probably 10 people within the last 2 weeks have gotten cancer. Now, how is it that from 10 different areas and 10 different people that are in no relation to each other just all of a sudden getting diagnosed with cancer? Brain cancer, lung cancer, thyroid cancer, cancer in your lymph nodes, cancer in your stomach, cancer in your colon, cancer in your pancreas, cancer in this, cancer in that. And it just blows my mind, because so much money is put into, the chemo and the radiation, and there's a lot of people that make it through, but there's a lot of damage that's done. Radiation is not meant for the human body. Chemotherapy is not meant for the human body, and cancer cells, are, and I know if you Google this or you research it, if you're interested, cancer cells are the only ones that can be remade. Like they they duplicate. And, whereas like other cells in the human body, like we can't replenish those cells, but like cancer cells can. That's why it says it keeps coming back. But the problem is that with so many people all of a sudden just having all these different types of cancer, and you almost like sit back and think like, how is it that we know so much about it? We know so much about where it is, how it can be done, how many years, but yet we still can't figure out a cure for cancer, but yet people are getting diagnosed with cancer left and right, and this happens to be one of the most money-making, in healthcare, you know what I mean? That's where they get a lot of their money from, is from people being diagnosed with cancer. And what a lot of people don't know is a lot of people have had some pretty big breakthroughs on what can reduce the size of cancer cells. And even, and I know this was, oh my gosh, this was a long time ago. This was probably, I kid you not, probably 10 years ago. I heard, this girl was like, oh, I did this, I did this CBD treatment, and, I did the CBD treatment, and my brain cancer, it went away. Like the CBD actually took it away. And I remember like reading on the news about how this person, you know, or it was either on the news or it was like a news article or something later on that said, oh, you know, this girl's just like, I believe that it was almost fake, you know, like that it wasn't even an actual thing. Well, you know, now that I'm older and I read online, you know, what CBD can actually do, where it comes from, like this has been used for thousands and thousands of years. And yet, all of a sudden, because it's making us money, now we want to let it, you know, now we want to use it. But what they fail to mention is that a lot of the time, you know, when you go to the doctor and somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, like they don't ever recommend to you, and they never, ever, for 1 second recommend to you a natural, any sort of natural remedy. And they don't even tell you, and I'll tell you straight up, smoking pot is going to help anybody that's going through like that chemo and stuff, because at least they'll have an appetite. Your stomach gets so messed up, you know, and people are just so against it because THC is a drug, CBD is from a plant, you know, a hemp plant, that's a drug. People, it's an effing plant. It's a plant, for God's sakes. It grows out of the ground, and you literally don't do anything to it except make it hot and get the oil out of it. That's what CBD and that's what THC can be, you know? And that's what it just like blows my mind that people are so against it. And you know what? And where did that come from? The news. Where did that negativity, where did that bad idea of that specific plant come from? It came from the news. It came from somebody saying one bad thing about it, and then everybody believed it, and everybody thought, oh, that is bad. That's a bad thing. So then it just got pushed to the back burner, you know, because everybody's like, oh, that's bad. Like, you know, they're going to regulate it, blah, blah, blah. Everything's going to be fine. But yet, lo and behold, that THC and the hemp plant and, you know, marijuana could be one of the best things, and it could be for anybody. You know, your skin, your anxiety, your depression, your diabetes, like, you know, cancer and health, like all these things that it can help. And if you do your research and you look up on there, you know, what this can do for people. You know, and like I said, I'm by no means saying that CBD is going to cure cancer, or am I saying that CBD is going to reduce the size of a tumor or whatever. You know, that is all based on that individual person as well. Like some people's bodies might react differently, but it just happens to be that so many people have used it, you know, before that they've just had those kind of results, you know, and the CBD has helped excuse me, the CBD has helped with, you know, relief, like pain relief, and you know, and just by chance, like I said, there was just somebody that they swore up and down that, like, after they started taking it, like you know, they had like a lot of muscle tension. And this doesn't have to do with cancer, because I can't specifically say that I've witnessed it, that is you know, that the CBD does do that. But I do know that, you know, because CBD is so powerful, and it's in, you know, and if you believe in God, or if you believe in nature, that, you know, it's an important part of our life, you know, it was put there for it to be like, we're made as human beings to eat plants. We're made as human beings to be like omnivores. You know what I mean? We are vegetarians. We are supposed to eat plants. We're supposed to eat fruits that come out of the ground, and, you know, this and that. And if you think about it like that, if you are a vegetarian, the only reason I'm talking so deeply about this topic is because it's a big thing right now. And I just want to point out a couple things, you know, like when you're using, you know, or I'm sorry, when you're starting, like, let's say you're starting a new diet and you're like, hey, I want to be vegan because, you know, meat, this and that has this in it, and meat has this, and blah, blah, blah. Well, when you go on a diet, what do you eat? You eat everything that grows out of the ground. You eat vegetables that grow out of the ground. You eat fruits that grow out of the ground. You know what I mean? Or products that you eat are made specifically from plants or herbs or oils or anything like that. So why would taking CBD or smoking, you don't even have to smoke it, why would that be a bad thing if it grows out of the ground and it's a natural plant that has been used for thousands and thousands of years, and it's still in it, but yet that the news is the reason that it's so bad. The government has made it, the government made it seem like it was this horrible thing, and now that they can make all this money from it, now it's good. Oh yeah, you know what? We can regulate it. We can make tons and tons and tons of money off of this. That's the only reason they're doing it. And I don't understand how people can't, that's when I say stay woke. How do you not see that? How do you not see that that's an issue? And just like gun control, because this shooting's going off and, and that shooting happened and things like that. And you got plenty of people out here that are like, oh, a gun can't kill without a human, so it has to do with the humans. Yeah, I agree with you. And I do think that, people take advantage of using guns, but just because, they hype it up and they make it seem like guns are just this horrible, terrible thing, but guns never had to be a terrible thing. Guns, and that's what, and then it goes like with alcohol and cigarettes. Cigarettes cause cancer. Cigarettes cause cancer, and yet we're still selling them on the market. Alcohol, DUIs, going to jail, but yet you don't ever hear about how bad alcohol is. Do you ever hear about how many DUIs there are or how many people smoke cigarettes? That stuff just got pushed back. It just kind of got ignored, it doesn't even matter. Yet we're regulating cigarettes and alcohol, when alcohol, and the drug driving is one of the most, murderous. That's how people die. That's the easiest way for people. I don't even want to say easiest, but that's one of the more common ways for people to die is from drunk driving, because it's legal for people over 21. But yet you don't want to let us have a plant. I don't know, when I think about it like that, guys, I can't not think that the government is got something up its sleeve. I can't not think that. I can't, because it's a crazy world out here. And, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that, I do CBD, and and then you can either get it with the THC in it or not. It just depends on, what plant you're extracting the CBD oil from. But, that's one of the, I kind of went off a little bit on, that. But my whole point is that everything that you see on the news, when you turn on the news and you hear, it's always something bad about that, unless it's making you lots of money. If the government's making lots of money off a product or off of a new idea or anything, they're going to talk good things about it because they want people to pay. They want people's money. But yet as soon as that stops making money, or for example, all these things that could be possibly killing people, we don't talk about it. But yet the government still allows it to be out in public, and the government still allows people to be engaged in whatever it is that supposedly is, that could be causing. But yet, because cancer is the biggest money maker out there, why get rid of things that supposedly cause cancer? Just want you guys to think about that one. I really do. And you can agree with me, you can not agree with me, you can think I'm crazy, because a lot of the time, I watched a documentary on this guy that really did some in-depth, he was a very big conspiracy theorist, and, he just disappeared. Nobody has any idea what happened to him, because he really dug deep in finding out who owns the government, and he ended up disappearing. But one of the things that this stuck with me, and I don't know why this stuck with me so hard, it just did. So he was on a megaphone and he was telling people, there's thousands and thousands of people walking by him, and he goes, we're all slaves, people, we're all slaves. Like, you're brainwashed, you're brainwashed into thinking like, oh, you got to do this and raise a family and work 9 to 5 and do that. That's what the news tells you, right? That's what you're supposed to do. He's yelling all this stuff and he's saying that. And then he looks at this guy and he goes, yeah, I'm a psychopath, right? Like, you think I'm a psychopath because of the things that I'm telling you? Like, I'm crazy. And then it, you know what I mean? And then it kind of was like, oh my gosh, like, we do, like, society tells people that talk like that they're crazy, like, that you're psycho, like, you're psycho to think that's even what's going on, but are they though? Like, are they really psycho? I mean, seriously. So, like I said, I don't want anybody to get offended if you listen to this, and I don't want you, to have, you can form your opinion of me if you want to. I am not somebody that really, that it doesn't bother me, but I want people to agree with me, and I want people to be on my side, but I'm also not a pushy person, and I'm also very open-minded. If you come at me with an idea, or you have something that you think needs to be talked about, I'm more than happy to talk about it, and I'm more than happy to hear your opinion on it. So everything that I'm talking about now, like, yeah, this is my honest to God feeling and my, just my expression of the topic. It doesn't mean you have to agree with me. I just want to get that clear. Doesn't mean you have to agree with me, and it doesn't mean that you have to like what I have to say, but just listen and maybe, think about it. And also, like I said, with the CBD stuff, I think it's great. I think everybody should do it. I think everybody should try it. I think it's amazing. And like I said, I started my own business with it, and it's a really cool thing. And if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't do it. And I really appreciate anybody that listens to my podcast, because like I said, this is just words that I feel like need to be said.
What's the big deal?
Where can you get pizza, bread twists, specialty chicken, and more for just $5.99 each?
Is it at Domino's?
He hands off hand-tossed pizza and a marble cookie brownie. He's going!
There's a lot of variety on the radio and at Domino's too, where you can
mix and match 2 or more. $5.99 each at Domino's.
2-item minimum. Pan pizza, bone-in wings, and bread bowls will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary.
Now's the time to travel and be with the people you care about the most. And at Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express, we're helping you be there for less. Save at least 25% at thousands of hotels worldwide if you book by September 24th. You won't want this moment to pass you by. So book today at HolidayInn.com. Terms and conditions apply.